No one has ever been distracted by their phone. No one has ever been distracted by social media. No one is addicted to alcohol. No one is addicted to coffee. What we are distracted by
Welcome to the Redefining Sales podcast. I'm your host, Abby White. Today, we have with us Darren Fleming, who is a behavioural scientist and focus on mindset. He really has a specialisation around peak performance and has worked with the likes of Caterpillar and CISCO to really help them as organisations and their employees. So Darren is also the author of Mindset Mastery, and he talks us through some of the core principles of his book, such as don't just rely on willpower. What are some techniques, some strategies that we can use to master our mindset and actually be able to focus, be able to drive efficiencies, actually have sustained performance over a period of time? And so we are going to be delving into all things mastering your mindset in this conversation with Darren. Grab your pad, pen, and get ready to take some hot notes on some really highly practical tips on all things mindset. Welcome to the Redefining Sales podcast. Today we have got with us Darren Fleming, and I have been excited about this conversation all morning. So Darren, welcome to the podcast.
G'day, Abby. Great to be here.
So we have got so much ground to cover, so I am going to dive straight in and not lose a second of your brain and your insights. So obviously you specialize as behavioral scientists and around peak performance. I want to sort of start with the foundations, laying the groundwork. Are there any thoughts you have around non-negotiables when we start to broach this enormous topic of peak performance?
Yeah, a great question. It's actually about being aware. Peak performance is simply being aware of what's going on around you, kind of obvious, but also aware of what you're doing. What are you feeling? What sensations are you experiencing in your body? Because if we're not aware of what we are experiencing, how are we going to know how to act and or react? I'm certainly not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but I spend a lot of time studying the sages and mystics that have walked the earth, Buddha, Krishna, Christ, and all the big guns. They all said the same thing: know thyself. Now, know thyself doesn't mean, I'm 48, like long walks on the beach and sunsets. It's know what's going on in your body. And most people simply don't. And that's why they're not in touch with their intuition. They're not in touch with, I knew I should have done that, but they did something else because they weren't aware of what was going on in their body.
Is that because... Oh, sorry, go on.
That got deep quick, didn't it?
No, I like it. It's giving me other questions. Is that because we're all, and I'm very guilty of this, running around at 1,000 miles an hour, so we're not in tune because we almost don't pause for breath to become in tune?
That's part of it. Part of it is we haven't been taught. Those that are supposed to know don't. The elders of our society, they don't know. It's the constant dopamine hit of chasing the next alert on the phone or the next sale or the next customer or whatever it happens to be. We don't pay attention to what's going on. If you don't pay attention to what's going on, you're going to have to keep dealing with it until you do. It was Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, one of Sigmund Freud's students and eventually contemporaries, who said, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will continue to show up in our life and we will simply call it fate. How does the unconscious become conscious? We experience it as an energetic sensation. If we don't pay attention to it, if we push it down, I'm just going to go forward, the mind-body instrument goes, well, we better create another situation where that energetic sensation comes up so we can address it. And that's all that happens. We have continual life patterns making decisions, so these energetic sensations come up and we can make them conscious. But if we don't pay attention to them, if we're not aware of them, we're not going to make them conscious. We're going to push them back down they'll have to find another way to come up.
So talk to me about the energetic sensations. Is that also that, is that I'm feeling anxious? Is it that I'm feeling overwhelmed? Is it, go more in depth with us around the energetic sensations?
Yes, it is that, but it's not that advanced. Okay. So when you say I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling overwhelmed, what is happening is our words are very clumsy. They're very clunky. So I love my wife, I love my kids, and I love four-wheel driving. So the one word describes all three different loves. And all three different loves are enacted very differently, but we've just got the one word. So our words aren't nuanced enough to describe what we are feeling. So I prefer to use the term energetic sensations. What are you experiencing in your body? Now, you use the term, I'm feeling anxious. Well, without putting the word anxious on it, what is it you're feeling? You're feeling maybe a tingling in your legs or your stomach, or your mouth might be going dry. When we just experience these energetic sensations and pay attention to them, they start coming up. And one of the beautiful laws of the universe is impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing. You're in a building, I'm in a building. There was a time before this building was here, and at a time it'll be gone. The sun, in about 5 billion years' time, won't be there anymore. Everything is impermanent. That applies to those energetic sensations within us as well. So if you're feeling anxious, you have to go in for a big presentation to pitch for that gig, that contract, or you've got to have a difficult conversation with one of your team members and you're feeling what you would label as anxious, follow the advice of the Stoics. The obstacle is the way. Sit there and go through the obstacle. Experience that energetic sensation in your body. It might take 30 seconds. It might take a minute. But just pay attention to it. It will dissipate. And once it's dissipated, it's gone. You don't feel it anymore. Then you don't have to tell yourself the story of I'm feeling anxious, scared, happy, sad, whatever.
How do you start on that journey? So if at the moment, we're not necessarily consciously aware, we're not necessarily slowing down to consider the energetic sensation, if anyone's listening going, this sounds great, but how do I don't know if I could do that, or how do I do that?
Yeah.
How do you kickstart that process?
Yeah. So you're driving along on the way to work or your next sales call, you've got your hand on the steering wheel. Maybe the elbow's resting on the window there. Can you actually feel the steering wheel in your hand, or have you blanked that out? If you're sitting in a chair listening to this, or you've got the AirPods in, can you feel the AirPods in your ears? One of the faculties that we have in psychology, we use the term habituation. So if you're sitting on a chair, you don't feel you're sitting on a chair until you think of it. And then a moment or so later, the signal's gone. The brain habituates out that signal. Unfortunately, that is a great thing to do, because we don't want to be feeling our shoes on our feet and our belt around our waist and our coat on our back all day long. But unfortunately, what happens is you can't selectively numb. So what we do is we end up habituating out all of the signals that is coming to our brain through our sense organs, and we don't feel it. So if you want to start on this process, pay attention to what you're holding in your hand as you're driving along. You're driving along, you're paying attention. Just, can I feel the steering wheel in my hand? Great. Keep paying attention to the steering wheel in your hand. Now, within about 4 or 5 seconds, your mind will have wandered. That's fine. Just bring it back. Just bring it back all the time.
Is that also around, I'm not sure whether I'm putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 26, but is that also around training your mind to a certain degree, around also practicing things around mindfulness, meditation, and so on? So you're also being more aware, more in tune with what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. It is literally training your mind. When was the last time, we go to the gym, we train our body, we go learn something to train within a domain, but we don't go off and train our mind. And that's what meditation's all about, becoming aware of what your mind does. Most people, though, have been taught meditation incorrectly. And I talk to people and they go, oh, I tried meditating, but I just can't get it to work. My mind always wanders. Well, duh. That's because you haven't trained your mind. When, for a human to say, I can't meditate is like a fish saying, I can't swim. It's not possible. When that person sits down to meditate and they find their mind wandering and they try and pay attention to the air coming in and out of their nose, and then their mind wanders again, and they do that for a minute or so, and then they say, this doesn't work. It is actually working. It's like going to the gym and saying, I tried lifting the weights. I lifted them. I had to do it 10 times, but I could only lift it 3 times, and well, it's not working. What is happening is when your mind is wandering, you're noticing that your mind is wandering. And that may be the first time you have ever noticed. You go, oh, I actually want to focus on here, but it actually went over there. It's just a matter of bringing it back, bringing it back. It's like a little puppy dog. You ever tried to train a little puppy dog to sit down in the one spot and sit, stay? It sits there. You say sit, and you push its bum down, and it sits there and goes, oh, there's something exciting over there, and runs off. No, bring it back, put it down. You don't get angry at it. I mean, you might get frustrated at yourself that the dog's not doing what you want it to, but that's just because the dog has never been trained to sit still. Your brain has never been trained to sit still.
Okay, there is so many questions now coming up in my mind. I've got to take you back to, I'm having to write a list now of the questions so that my mind doesn't go off like the puppy dog and I can come back to them.
Sorry, you were saying?
So I want to go back to the point you made around us being able to sort of concentrate on what we're doing. And, you know, we might be trying to concentrate on, I'm trying to do this proposal. And then off we go, oh, social media, oh, Instagram. Ooh. And we kind of have this constant struggle in a way to be productive because we wander off. So talk to me about how we start to navigate that from a perspective of, you know, productivity now. It is really important because we have to do so many things in our day. And, you know, for me as a business owner, I think productivity is incredibly important. It is for all of us. So how do we start to navigate that when there are the constant distractions of, oh, Instagram, oh, an email, and pulling our attention away?
This is going to sound controversial, but I'll give you a framework first. The only 3 things that you and I have at our disposal are our brain, our body, and the awareness of them. You can see that on the model on the whiteboard there behind me. So just keep that in mind. No one has ever been distracted by their phone. No one has ever been distracted by social media. No one is addicted to alcohol. No one is addicted to coffee. What we are distracted by is an energetic sensation in our body that is triggered by the phone, that is triggered by social media. We are not addicted to alcohol. We are addicted to the energetic sensation we experience in our body when we have alcohol. That's why no one is addicted to plain flour, because plain flour doesn't give you an energetic sensation. So if we want to be more productive, how do we do it? We need to train the mind to tell we need to train our awareness to tell the brain and the body that you are subservient to this awareness. And how do you do that? You practice being present with the energetic sensations. So if you have got staff that constantly in meetings are on their phone, maybe you are yourself, and you know, I should be paying attention, but while I'm online, I'm going to be doing this texting, I'm listening, but I'm really doing emails as well. And you know you're not paying attention. Well, there's no evidence that suggests multitasking works, none whatsoever. The way that we normally get around this is by we set up cages. So we're going into a meeting, we have to leave our phone at the desk, or we turn all the apps off, or basically what we do is we put scaffolding around us to keep us on the straight and narrow. But you get that if we have habits and discipline like that, that's just a cage that keeps freedom at bay. Because we can all lock our phone in the drawer and try and do the work, but we still think, oh, what's going on with the phone? Oh, what's on social media? So it's not actually the phone or the social media, it's your mind going there. Why is your mind going there? Because there's an energetic sensation happening in the body that is driving your mind to want to check it. You can do whatever you like to your phone, but until you get rid of that energetic sensation in your body, it will still happen. So how do we do that? Pay attention to that energetic sensation and experience it. This is why I said to your first question, what's the non-negotiable? Awareness. You need to be aware of what you're experiencing in your body. If you have salespeople in your team who don't make sales calls or who don't do the required amount of new business lead generation, they'll say, oh, I don't like it, it's hard work. Now, what that is a description of an energetic sensation they are experiencing in their body. It's not about making it desirable, it's about making it not undesirable. So you've got to make these phone calls. You've got to make these energetic, these cold calling. I've spent enough time as a salesperson. I know it's not the greatest bit of fun. So just pay attention to the energetic sensations that you need to experience or that you do experience when you go to make those calls. That sensation will come up. Pay attention to it. When it's dissipated, you won't have to deal with it.
So how as a manager, if we use that as an example, right? Because that's a really great example to sort of play with. If I'm a manager and I'm having that conversation with my salesperson going, hang on a sec, you haven't done any of the calls that we agreed. You're supposed to make these 20 calls. You haven't done them. So, what's going on here? How do you broach that conversation? Because I can just imagine, as a former sales manager, and as someone working with sales teams, if I said to them, pay attention, increase your awareness, what's the energetic sensation? They're going to go, what's she been drinking? So how do you, and also, and I think as well, different people are on different places on this journey. My husband goes incredibly deep, philosophical, and he's almost far more advanced than I am on my journey around meditation and self-awareness and things like that. And sometimes he goes to a place where I'm like, whoa, I'm still in the beginner's camp. Like, I can't go there. And so I'll kind of say, like, I'm at this level, you've gone too deep for me. And so how, if we pull that back to the example, how as a manager do I take someone on the journey and you actually make it appeal to the masses for people who might not be there or want to go there, have no interest?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I do for a living. I go into organisations and show them how to, it's mindset mastery. How do you master your mindset around the stuff you've got to do for work? So that's what I do, because I get, and I 100% agree, if you turn up Monday morning saying, okay, now I'm as your manager, you've known me for 5 years, we're now doing something completely different. They're all going to go, man, less of the green ones, more of the red ones. So it's about deploying the technology to your team, and that's what I specialize in doing. It's then about understanding that everyone is at 100% free choice. I'm a sales manager, you as my staff, you're at 100% free choice as to whether or not you make these calls. But you need to realise there's consequences if you don't. If you are choosing to not make them, there are consequences, which are 1, 2, or 3. You get them too often, you get consequence 4, which is you have the opportunity to work somewhere else. Or whatever the consequences in your organisation are. And what this then becomes about is the ultimate, I am responsible for what I do. And it's no longer about, I didn't make the calls because I didn't feel like it. It's, I didn't make the calls because I don't like making calls. I don't want to. And then what happens is that's easier to live with as the sales rep. It's easier to manage as the sales manager because there's no excuses. It's just didn't want to make them. Now, what will happen is the sales rep will make all these excuses about it, and it's about encouraging them to pay attention to the energetic sensations that are going on in their body and let them deactivate themselves. And when they do deactivate themselves, they can be in a position where they're making choice.
I can imagine in an organisation, and some of the organizations you work with, this shakes things up a little bit, right? Because you're going to have people who jump on board the bus and go, yep, okay, cool, I'm going to embrace this change, pretty interesting. And I can imagine, and I guess throwing it to you as a question, there's people who also go, hang on, not for me, opt out. Maybe I don't want to be a salesperson when I grow up, and maybe I actually want to go and, do whatever. So I'm curious around, it brings about a lot of organizational change, right? It's quite a big shift. So I'm curious to unpack that a little bit around some of the organizations you work with and how you broach that, because it will shake things up, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it certainly does. I work with companies called Ausgrid. They do the electricity poles and wires for New South Wales or Sydney main area. And with some of the very, very senior leaders in the organisation, some of them just gone, this makes so much sense. It kind of sings to them. One of those things, I always knew there was a path, but I didn't have the map. Now I do. And some people, they just go, oh, yeah, nice, I'm not going to get on board. And that's choice. Wonderful. You're still producing, not a problem. But, we're giving you all the opportunity to produce. And that's what's required. I'm not sure if that answers the question, though.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious around how you broach working with organizations, because I'm curious about some organizations might go, oh, not sure how this is going to go down with our team, not sure how open our team are going to be. Oh, what happens when people don't come to the party? Do we then have a bunch of HR performance conversations? Because hang on, we're now really addressing the fact they're not making the calls, using that example. So I'm just curious about some of I can think about how I would apply this to my life as an individual and as someone who's interested in personal development, how I might make a choice to go, yep, cool, I'm going to embrace it. However, when you apply it at an organizational level, not everyone has had the opportunity to opt in on that bus. Leadership's come and gone, hey, guess what? This is super exciting. So I'm curious around how you approach this, this work with organizations.
Yeah. It's what I talk about is grounded in hard science, like quantum physics, like chemistry, biology. If you walk into an organisation and start talking about Buddha, Krishna and Christ, you'll upset somebody because I'm an atheist, damn it, and you're just like crazy. That's cool. My background in psychology, actually, and all the Freuds and Jungs and behaviourisms and all that sort of stuff that I studied at uni fits perfectly into this. It fits whatever frame of reference you have for your view of the world. And that's a wonderful way that helps people get on board with it. And they take from, when I speak, they take from it what they need. What I have found is when I speak at organisations or keynotes at conferences, etc., the number of people who come up and go, I've always thought that, you've articulated it for me. And what that tells me is more people are actually ready for this message than there might have been, 20, 30 years ago, or even pre-COVID. Now, I don't think we should negate or overlook the mental shift that happened for everybody during COVID. We've all come out the other side reevaluating things. I've got clients who are saying, how do I get the people back into the office? And I've got people in organisations going, how do I not go back into the office? Because people have realised, hang on, I don't actually have to be sitting in my little cubicle at work. I can be even more productive not being there. But there's a whole heap of other conversations around that as well as, networking and all that sort of jazz that needs to be performed. But people are becoming aware that there is something different to that which we previously knew.
So when people are coming up to you after a conference going, gosh, you've just articulated it for me, you've nailed it, I've always thought it, but not really been able to put the words to it. When they're saying I've thought it, is it around the aha moment for them is around they have to master their mind and actually look at how do we control, for want of a better word, our mind and be able to be more aware and start with awareness and then start with the energetic field? Is that the aha moment around I need to learn to master my mind, I need to have better awareness, and the rest flows? Is that the moment?
That's what it is. Brene Brown, if you've ever read any of her work, I love her work. And she says, midlife is when the universe taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, this gig's for real. And what people end up doing, I think, is they get to a point when they hear my work, and I'm not saying I'm anyone, although I am, I'm not saying I'm anyone amazing, but when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah. And what is happening is, if you look at the way society is structured, it's all around, you have a hole in yourself, go out, buy something, you'll feel better. And that's what capitalism is based on, eternal consumption. Now, we talk about constantly growing the economy as though it's infinite growth. We'll get to a point where the planet literally, and we're there now, where the planet goes, no, I can't handle this shit, we're going to shut down. What happens with individuals is we buy things because they make us excited. And we buy things, and we find that, if I get that new shirt, I'm going to be happy. I buy a new shirt, I'm happy, use it for 2 days. Buy a new car. Yeah, I'm going to be really happy when I buy a new car. And, the kids are not allowed to eat in the back, and, there's no touching on, we'll clean it every weekend. And you do that for the first 2 weeks. And after 6 weeks, it's just another thing you've got to pay off. Or we'll get a new house, a bigger house. And then a holiday. We look forward to holiday, and then we come back, oh, I want another holiday. We're addicted to wanting. We're addicted to wanting stuff. And I think a lot of people know that that's going on inside them, because they know they buy this thing, they have that experience. It doesn't completely fill the hole. And a week or so later, the hole is back. So they're looking for something else. And when I talk to them about, actually, the way you get rid of the hole is you just pay attention to it, because it's just an energetic sensation. And when you do that, you realize that you can have a new shirt or you can have an old shirt, and it's not going to change any of your happiness. Or you can have a new car or not a new car, and it's not going to change your happiness, because it can't. It's external to you. Where do you feel your happiness? Where do you feel happiness? Where do you feel happiness?
So for me, it's kind of, when I think of being happy, I think of, when you're buzzing, it's an energy. It's just God, I feel good. It's that buzzing.
It's inside you.
Yeah.
It's not on the couch behind you. It's not on the ceiling. It's not on the roof. It's inside you.
It's not on the shirt.
Not on the shirt. Happiness is inside. Until you go within, you'll always go without. That's what the masters have always said. Know thyself. Go in. And when you realize that you can go in and you can be happy, whatever happens around you, you can remain focused. And when terrible things happen around you, you can remain stable and make the best decisions for the pressure that you're currently under.
So when organizations, going back to our organizations scenario, when organizations do this sort of work with you, I can understand, again, as an individual, I'm like, yep, I can see how you would get so much benefit. From an organization's perspective, is the benefit that they typically see by investing in their people in this sort of work, is it the productivity outcomes? Is it the employee morale? Is it if they're happier in themselves, they're happier in their job, they're more productive, and it's better well-being, less time off sick? What's the benefit if an organization's going, yep, sounds good, I can see how that would work for me, but what about, why would I invest in that for my team? What are the outcomes and benefits you typically see for an organization to go on this path?
So I've spent the last 20 years or so in organizations, training around communications, presentation, public speaking skills, around one of my programs, the better question to ask, which is working with either salespeople or leaders on how do you ask a better question. Organizations bring me in for that because they go, we have a deficit, we need to fix this, and it kind of makes sense. Most of the organizations that bring me in for mindset mastery are the leaders who have gone, I want to give my team something beyond the skills at work. And my most two recent clients for Mindset Mastery have both articulated this in pretty much the same way. I want to give them something that they'll be able to use in their home life, that when they're happier at home, they're going to be happier at work and they're going to be more productive. And that's what mindset mastery is about. Because so that's how mindset mastery gives you greater productivity, gives you greater creativity, gives you greater focus, because you can apply the mindset mastery techniques to the events that are happening at home, which means you're going to have less stress at home. What does that mean? It means when you get home from work, you're not going to have 3 or 4 beers to try and relax at the end of the night. And because you haven't had 3 or 4 beers and your tongue's a bit loose, you're not going to yell at the kids, and you may not pick a fight with your significant other. And you'll go to bed probably happier because you haven't had all that alcohol in your system. You're going to get a better quality of sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're not going to be slightly hungover. And when you get to work, you don't go anywhere near him until he's had 3 coffees. And because you don't have all that, you're not fighting yourself. Because you get in an argument at home. The reason we have arguments at home is people trigger us. Oh, yeah, that person just pissed me off. Absolutely. But do you get that the person who annoys you is sent to you with, it sounds really awful, but they're coming to you with a lesson. Once again, Carl Jung, I loved him when I was at uni, one of his theories. He talked about the shadow personality. The males have the feminine shadow, the animate and the animus. And what he said is until we integrate our shadow personality, we won't be a full, complete individual. So when this person who you don't like turns up and triggers you, it is just simply the lesson being delivered to you, hey, you've got this part of you that needs to be integrated. So integrate it. Because once again, where do you feel the frustration of that person? You don't feel it on the couch behind you. You don't feel it on the ceiling or on the wall. It's inside you. It's just an energetic sensation.
So, this is so random. I so wish my other half was in this conversation, because he would just be loving this and taking it to a whole level that I can't. And I'm going to have to play this back to him later. So deep dive into that one with me. So, okay, I'm finding someone at work frustrating and, so on. And actually, I find it really challenging working with this person. They just absolutely grate me, whatever it is. How do you almost break that down into a highly practical way that someone can then go, okay, these are the steps that I need to take to be able to overcome that, and then have a better relationship with that person, and so on. So at a really practical level, how do you then overcome that so you've got a better relationship?
Yeah. So I unpack this in the book Mindset Mastery. You might remember the chapter about whingers. They whinge about the universe. But essentially what you're talking about there is a problem of control. You are annoying me, and I want you to change so I don't feel annoyed. We humans have a really poor relationship with control. We take credit for things we didn't do. We try and control things that we have no right to control, and then we don't control what we should control. So we take credit for things that we didn't do. Fishermen and women are great at doing this. So are gardeners. The fisher says, I caught a fish. No, you didn't. Unless you picked it up with your hand, you didn't catch a fish. Unless you scooped it out with a net, you didn't catch a fish. No, Darren, I did. I threw the line in, put the right bait on. We went out to the right side. I threw it in at the right time where the tide was. The fish came along, bit the hook. I caught a fish. Yeah, you did all of those things, but the fish bit the hook. If the fish didn't bite the hook, you wouldn't have caught a fish. Sounds to me, you didn't catch a fish, the fish caught itself. Now, the reason this is important is, and this is so true in sales, salespeople, sales managers are terrible at this, is we're trying to control something we have no right to control. Because of that, because we try to take credit for things we didn't do, we ask the wrong questions, because we look at that customer and we go, how can I get that customer to buy more? How can I get them to buy from me? And they have meetings around this. It's the wrong question. That customer, no, she's got a multi-million-dollar business, and she's got 35 staff, and she's not going to bend to your will just because I had a meeting and we decided you're going to buy from me. You're asking the wrong question. The better question to ask is, how can I be worth buying more from?
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah. Most sales teams won't ask that question because I might have to change. So we take control, we take credit for things we don't control. I caught a fish. We try and control things that we don't control, how to get you to buy more. And then we don't control things that we should. So, question without notice. For how long did you brush your teeth this morning?
I probably did it for 30 seconds, but that's a total guess. I have no idea. I didn't count it because I wasn't aware. There we go. Yeah. Unaware teeth brushing.
And the reason I bring this up is we outsource most of the things we could control. So what happens is most people will brush their minute. Well, we know we should brush our teeth for 2 minutes. Why? Because that's what the Australian Dental Association says. Okay. Now, I brush my teeth until the electric toothbrush goes zh, zh, zh. Yeah. But the reality is we should brush our teeth until they are clean. Do you get the difference?
Yeah. So how do you start to, if as humans we all love the control, how do you start to break the pattern?
So I will answer that question, but I want to come back to you. That person is annoying me. How do I deal with that person?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, go there first. I'm writing a list. Go.
Make sure I come back to that. So, so every morning when I brush my teeth at night, the thing goes, I then ask myself, are they clean? Because, if you're talking this talk, you've got to walk this walk. So that person at work who annoys you, if only you would get the report in on this time, if only you wouldn't slurp your coffee. So you're trying to control someone that you have no right to control. Why? Why do you want that person to stop slurping the coffee? Why do you want them to be a different way? Because you are experiencing an energetic sensation within your body that you do not like. So what you're saying is, will you be a particular way so I don't feel some way? Well, that sounds like you're trying to outsource control to someone else. And every time you do that, they actually have power over you. I can annoy Abby every time I slurp my drink. Excellent. I'm going to annoy her. So how do you deal with that? Observe the energetic sensation. Now, observing, they're in the book Mindset Mastery, and as we arrange, I think it's going to be in the show notes. You can download a copy of the whole book from mindsetmastery.online. I talk about the 6 don'ts when you feel an energetic sensation. Don't label them, don't own them, don't judge them, don't fight them, don't justify them, don't explain them. So we touched on this frustration earlier. I'm feeling anxious. So don't label it, just experience it. Don't own it. Oh, this is just how I feel when he slurps his coffee. No, just hear it. Because every time you own it, it's like your new mantra. I feel frustrated when I hear someone slurping coffee. How's that working out for you? Don't judge it. I shouldn't feel this way when I hear Darren slurping his coffee, because that makes you right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. Thinking makes it so, to quote Shakespeare. Don't fight it. Don't push it down. I'm just going to feel the fear and do it anyway. I'm just going to push through this. Because that's no fun. You end up fighting yourself all day. Don't justify it. Oh, I have a right to feel this way because it is so loud. Don't explain it. I feel this way because my father-in-law did it and he was a terrible man. And it's just a story. Just experience it. So that person who annoys you, just feel the energetic sensation in your body. Don't react to it. Pay 100% attention to it. It will come up and it will eventually subside. And when it subsides, it deactivates the programming that causes it to be coming up. When you simply observe, you are making the unconscious conscious. And then it's not going to show up in your life and you call it fate.
I feel like I needed this conversation when I was pregnant with my son, because when you're pregnant and hormonal, and I remember with my other half being like, you're breathing too loud. Even just your breathing is annoying me because you're so hormonal and everything irritates. And I remember that even being like, just even being in the same room as me is annoying because clearly you did this.
Yeah,
and I
as a male, I am going to keep completely quiet.
I feel like I could have done with this conversation then. So I want to take you back to, I made the note of around break the pattern. I think that's a really interesting point, because you said about, we want to control, and as humans, that's what we want to do. And I think it can almost be hard sometimes to change our behavior, to create a behavioral shift in ourselves. It's really hard to do. How do you start to step change and break the pattern?
Yeah. It's not actually that hard to change behaviors. It's just that most people have ignored the evidence that the great sages, mystics, avatars, enlightened beings, call them what you will, of our species have been telling us for thousands of years. Until you go within, you will always go without. Know thyself. It was Lao Tzu, the founder, I'm not sure that's the right word, but who came up with Taoism in Chinese religion. He said, wise is the man who knows someone. Enlightened is the man who knows himself. And by man, I assume back then he also meant women as well, but, to quote the guy. So what happens, the reason most people don't know this, and if you go to any self-help section book in a library or in a bookstore, it's full of books like Atomic Habits, James Clear of Milton Fogg, Tiny Habits, The Power of Habits, Duhigg, and Discipline, and all of these things. What they are about is countering those energetic sensations in your body. Set up habits so you do things. I have a habit that I go to work, then I go to the gym. But habits are a cage that keep freedom at bay. You have habits to ensure you do things you don't want to do. And you have discipline to make sure you don't do too much of the things you do want to do. So it completely takes away choice. Even the worst part about this is it takes away choice. It sets up a battle. And even James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, says that the battle's not permanent, because he says you can miss one day, but never miss two. Why? Because if you miss 2 days, you've broken your habit, you're back to square one. So you didn't actually have any behavior change. You had a behavior cage. The scaffolding kept that behavior at bay until, it wasn't. Nowhere in history has the oppressed ever turned back to the oppressor and said, thank you for suppressing me. I'm now happy with my new life. It doesn't happen that way. The moment they are free, they will come back. So the idea of how do you put steps into place to change your behavior? Step one is become aware. What is going on in your body? Step two is pay attention to it. Step three, rinse and repeat.
So that's what if you're working with someone, you get them to go through the step 1, 2, 3 you just said there, which is super simple, as an alternative to what they might have been trying to do. And I said to you earlier, you broke my heart with Atomic Habits, busting some myths. If someone has been trying to go, right, I'm going to put in place this habit or this discipline or this, following that guidance that, a lot of us read about and have tried, it's almost going, hang on, park that. And actually, let's just stop, reset button, and then go with the 1, 2, 3 you've just described.
Yeah. And what happens then is, Milton Fogg in Tiny Habits talks about habit stacking. So you want to get up in the morning to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So he says, well, put your gym gear out. And I think I'm getting James Clear, but one of them talked about putting their bicycle beside the door because they wanted to go riding in the morning. So they got it ready. So that was just one less bit of friction in the way. I mean, still do that. Knock yourself out. But what happens is sometimes you're lying in bed in the morning and you go, actually, I don't want to. I think it'll actually be better for my mental health, my physical health, and what I need to do today if I spend another hour in bed getting some sleep. Sometimes that's the best solution for you. But that means you're breaking a habit. And, so you get the sleep, but then you feel really bad because, well, I didn't keep my word to myself, did I? I'm not all that good. So you've broken the habit. Now you're feeling guilty because you weren't doing what you said you would do.
Yeah.
So you set up a struggle. Whereas if you live in choice, you can go, okay, I will get up and go for a ride or a swim or whatever, or I won't. And then you will do one or the other. And after a couple of days, you may have decided that, I have not got up 3 days in a row. And it's an opportunity for you to become aware, is that something I really want to do? And if you answer no, great. If you answer yes, then you have the dissonance of why you're not doing it. And the best way to overcome that is to pay attention to the energetic sensations you experience in your body as you think about it.
Mm. So rather than beating yourself up because, well, I didn't go to the gym this morning and that's the habit, and I had my gym clothes there really nicely laid out, actually where I'm at today, I'm low energy, I'm not feeling it. Actually, my body's telling me I just need sleep. I'm going to go with that, guilt-free, and I'm not going to beat myself up about it because I'm listening to what my body needs from me today.
Yeah, as opposed to, because habits are a set of unconscious behaviours you can perform without thinking. I don't know about you, but I don't want my staff being unconscious when they're going about their work. I want them to be paying attention to what they're doing.
Interesting. So this feeds in really nicely to a point I read about willpower. I read a point you made about our willpower often will fail us when we need it most. And so I'm curious to sort of build on that, because that's the willpower to get out of bed and get on the bike or whatever it is. Can you talk to us about that part?
Yeah. So willpower, the will to have power. Over what? Oh, isn't that a deep question? Oh, willpower, power over what? So you think about it, it's that energetic sensation in yourself. So you're in bed in the morning, you're lying there, and you need the willpower to get out of bed to go to the gym. And so what you're saying is you are starting your day like at 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock or whenever with a struggle. How does that set your day up for you? So you're not at choice. You are automatically in, I'm battling the day. You wonder why people battle their way through the day, because that's where they started off. But let's look at, because I've never been a fan of going to the gym at that hour of the day. That's why I like the gyms that are open at night. You're the leader of a team, and, once a month there's the morning tea, or when someone has a birthday and you want to go along to that birthday morning tea, but there's going to be cake there, and you've been trying to lose a couple of kilos. It's Thursday and you've done well all week, but you love cake and you're the team leader. How can you go to someone's morning tea for their birthday and not have a piece of their cake? Because everyone else is eating it, it looks yummy, and you want some, and you're struggling against it. So what's happening is there is that energetic sensation inside you saying, have some cake. And you then have to counter that with at least equal or possibly more power to suppress it. And at the end of the week, you're exhausted. It's been a long week. I'm talking Abby, you've been on my team for 10 years. You're one of my closest friends. Where's my loyalty, to you or to me? And it'll be fine. I'll have a piece of cake. And we come up with all these justifications. It's because we've got this battle going on inside of us that we want to deactivate, and that's why willpower fails. We're either exhausted at the end of a week, end of a long week traveling or whatever it happens to be, or we find that, it's going to be politically more correct to, and this is just a story I'm telling myself, have the piece of cake and, I'll just go to the gym and, do an extra session, which is the definition of bulimia. Eat and then get rid of.
So how do you then, so if willpower is going to fail because it's this constant battle and it's exhausting and we've been traveling, it's been a big week, I got no willpower left in the tank, what's the alternative then? If I know, actually for me right now, let's just use an example, right? I shouldn't have the cake because actually my doctors told me I'm a few kilos overweight and actually really I should be watching what I'm eating and I shouldn't have the cake. What's the alternative then to willpower to not have the cake?
Choice. I'm choosing to not have cake. Now, that only makes sense if you have deactivated the energetic sensation behind it.
Otherwise, it's too strong and I'm going to eat the cake.
Yeah. Or your choice can be, I will have some cake, in which case you can have it without guilt. But it's about, if you're using willpower, you've taken your choice away. You either have the cake and feel guilty, or you don't have the cake and have a fight. Whereas if you get rid of the energetic sensation, just observe it. You're there having a morning tea, the cake is on the table, you're talking to one of your friends and you want a piece of cake. The friend you're talking to is eating it. And as you're talking to it, just pay attention to the energetic sensation flowing through your body. You're drinking your coffee, tea or herbal tea or whatever it is, and just pay attention to the energetic sensation in your body. Now, what you can do is you can actually pre-live this. So you know the morning tea's at 10:30. You don't want to have any cake. Just sit there and stare blankly at a piece of paper on your desk, pretend you're reading, and just mentally rehearse what it's going to be like having that piece of cake or being around that piece of cake. The brain is so objective that it doesn't know the difference between the real world and the thought world. We experience this when we wake up in the middle of the night having oh my goodness, that dream was so real. So sit there and think, what's it going to be like being around the cake? You will experience that energetic sensation. We can, by thoughts, experience this. You can then watch those sensations and let them deactivate themselves. Once they've deactivated, you have made the unconscious conscious, and it won't turn up in your life anymore. You can either then choose to have it without guilt or not have any without guilt.
I've heard quite a bit about that as a strategy, actually. So if you put that from cake to presentation, you could actually sit there looking at that piece of paper going, right, I'm going to go into that presentation and there's going to be these people and la, 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 and actually go through it in your brain first.
Mm-hmm.
And that can also be used as a good preparation strategy. Do you translate that? So we're translating from cake to presentation. Do you also use that as a tool in business?
Yes. So I've spent the last 20 years or so teaching presentation skills in Australia, right around the world, for CISCO and Caterpillar and a bunch of other companies. What I talk to them about is, you're going to be standing up and talking in 10 minutes at the end of the day during the training. What are you feeling in your body? What's the energetic sensation? Just pay attention to it. Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Do you have cold toes? Do you have a cold hand? Do you have a sweaty armpit and a dry mouth? What is it? Just pay attention to it. This comes back to the original point. What's the non-negotiable? Be aware.
Interesting. So if I use that actually as our sort of really nice segue to my final question I had for you, if people are going, okay, I'm inspired by this, I need to sort of jump on the horse, this resonates with me. If there's just one thing people can do to kickstart this journey, is the number one thing starting with be aware? If there's one thing you take from this podcast, one thing you take from this conversation, be aware. Start there.
Be aware. Know thyself. Because that's what they've all said. It doesn't mean I like long walks on the beach. It means know what's going on in your body.
Thank you so much. I can't believe how much ground we covered. I have got a page of notes there, and I was ticking as we were going. We managed to pretty much cover all of those and a hell of a lot of ground. If people want to reach out to you, get a copy of the book you mentioned earlier, where are we best to find you? Where do we hunt you down?
Depends on how you like to consume your books. If you would like to download a free copy of it, mindsetmastery.online. Mindsetmastery.online is where you can download a free copy. Or if you want to buy the hard copy, you can get that through any of the Amazons or Booktopia, if that's still about. If you want to reach out to me, just my name, darrenfleming.com.au. And love to have a chat with anybody.
Perfect. We will put all of those links in the show notes. So that you can connect with Darren, and I'm definitely going to be diving into that book. I got really inspired this morning when I was reading all of your background, looking at your LinkedIn, your website, and got pretty inspired by your work. So thank you so much for joining us and coming on the podcast today.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Darren, feel free to check out all of the details in the show notes. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Redefining Sales podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you missed the memo, we have gone live with our YouTube channel and we are providing regular educational content on all of the behind the scenes things that we're seeing working right now to deliver sales. We're talking about AI, we're talking about the future of sales, we're talking about growth, we're talking about go-to-market, all of the hot topics that you need to know. So make sure that you also check out the link to our YouTube channel in the show notes.